call me Ishmael, because avast and away, lads. There she blows. It is the great she-lettuce again off the port bow. Arr, they say. Arr, Jim lad. I don't know why I did that. That was a weird opening. But yes, more. Oh, I said it was going to be good. I said it was going to be good. This might be a bit of a long one as well, so strap yourselves in for this. I've been trying to find a good stream for CPAC. We were going to watch it live when Liz Truss was going to do her whole speech. Unfortunately, the stream that we were watching wasn't very reliable. It kept on flicking about between going back and forth. So I'm like, oh, well, never mind. We'll wait until the full thing gets dropped. So that might, maybe next week, maybe this weekend. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But when I do find a good stream or a good video of Truss delivering her speech, oh, we'll bring you the goods. But in the meantime, to keep you keen, Liz Truss went and wrote a opinion piece for Fox News. So today, probably for the first and last time, unless they ever have something like this again, we will be going to Fox News to see what Liz Truss wrote about about why the world needs good US strong leadership, or else the West is doomed. Yep, it's going to be one of those videos today, so strap yourselves in. This could be a long one. Oh, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Like I say, down below, there's the Patreon page. There's a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee. Wake you up, buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club down below as well. Thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel. Like I say, click the like, click the share button. Let's share this about, because it hasn't gotten, honestly, too much attention here on old Blighty, as we say. But keeping up with the sea nautical themes. Avast and away over to Fox News with the title of "I'm a former British Prime Minister who believes the West is doomed unless Conservatives do this." So let's find out what Conservatives have to do to, quote, save the West. I'm sure this is all part of a wonderful book as well. Wouldn't surprise me if this entire piece ends up being an entire selling point for her book, but we'll see. So she starts off with, across the free world, those of us who define ourselves politically as conservatives share common values. These include a love of liberty, a belief in the importance of family as a building block of society, pride in our nation, distrust of unnecessary state intervention in our lives, and an expectation that our police and armed forces will protect us from harm and defend our borders. So there's probably a lot of people who would say that those are part of their value systems as well, but maybe wouldn't even consider themselves to be conservative. So shared values, I don't know. How about gun ownership? I think that would be a very, very big difference between US conservatives and UK conservatives. You know, a bit of a shared difference there. Also, what about NHS? UK conservatives, especially the party membership, love the NHS. Of course, you've got people like Liz Truss who ultimately hate it and really want to sort of, you know, get rid of it. But you look at the polls, conservative voters massively love the NHS. Republicans, maybe not so much. So shared common values, yeah, maybe some differences on that. But anyway, she continues. So, as I head to Washington, D.C. this week to address the Conservative Political Action Conference, I am concerned that these values are being undermined in the United States of America, thanks to the left wing ideas propagated across American cities and in the Biden White House. Let's hear what these terrible left wing ideas are. I don't think she will. Something tells me I don't think she will say what these terrible left wing ideas are, but we'll see if she brings them up. Indeed, in too much of the free world, the left has been in charge for too long, and the results are plain to see. Really, we've had 13 years of conservative rule in the UK. Also, I would say in Europe, left parties, depending, of course, being in coalition and things like that, if you were to say just in power as a whole, I'm probably going to say it's maybe like a 50-50, that it's not like always like the left in power. Although, again, you'd have to look that up. But I'm willing to say that she's probably wrong on that as well. So, after some of the most, quote, wicked and evil acts imaginable that were committed by Hamas, we have had the shocking sight of people marching on the streets protesting in favor of those terrorists, waving their flags and chanting their slogans. Yes and no. In some ways, there are people who have hidden there, and they are unfortunately full board Hamas and have carefully hidden themselves among these protests. While that is true, they've been very, very much in the minority, not the majority. The police have made some arrests of those types of people from those protests, but they were not the majority, and most people have been, saying, "Hey, we need to, stop what's going on in Gaza." It's kind of insane what we're seeing going on here, but all terrorists apparently. So there you go. So, of course, the next classic: schools, universities, and campuses and corporate boardrooms have become increasingly infected with the dogma of wokeism. And whether it be the promotion of the extreme identity politics obsessed with zealously degrowth environmentalism, or pushing of the so-called trans ideology that defies human biology. First of all, degrowth environmentalism. This is the typical net zero nonsense that you hear. That if we go down this environmental path, that all this growth that we've had, like since the Industrial Revolution, is going to go. Like, it's just going to completely, absolutely go. No, there is no evidence that is going to happen. That is everything hugely scaremongering among that point. But what you would have is massive growth opportunities for all these green technologies, all these new industries that we could set up. But of course, the Conservatives and Rishi Sunak have decided to completely, absolutely ditch. So, who is the degrowth people at the moment? Well, it's them. And of course, the trans ideology that defies human biology. I've said before, this ain't my wheelhouse. But none of these people are hurting anyone. All they're saying is, just treat them as, with a bit of kindness and understanding. How is that like the hardest thing to get across to some of these people? But no, they've just got to hate a certain group, and at the moment, it seems to be trans people that they're going hard after. And of course, this results in a lot of bad outcomes, unfortunately. Like I say, there are people who cover this sort of stuff better than me, but go see them. I've said before, Kevin Logan does this sort of stuff better than me. So if you want probably his take on just how bad like conservatives are covering this, go check him out. So she continues, and of course, national borders are not only no longer respected, but they are no longer properly patrolled by the authorities to protect us from those with malign intentions seeking to penetrate them. I like this. National borders no longer respected. You mean like Putin and Russia? Are they not respecting, national borders? Are we going to talk about them? No. Oh, it's just all these people coming, wanting to be, UK citizens, becoming UK taxpayers, helping fill a big hole in the job market that we've had since Brexit. Oh no, the horror. Even in Britain, one of the few countries in the West with conservatives still in power, the left has still successfully weaponized the courts and its activist lawyers to prevent the government from deporting illegal immigrants. It hasn't weaponized the courts. It's lawyers following the rules of law. You just don't like to happen that you're the ones trying to break the rule of law. But she continues, it is not enough to simply to will conservative politics. We need to battle the malign ideas of the left. This means to put an end to the triangulation of splitting the difference, which leads to the appeasement of extremists. What? The triangulation and splitting the difference. What? So, yeah. So what's exactly that? What has that been? How have they appeased, or how have they triangulated to split the difference, which has led to the appeasement of extremists, Liz? You going to tell us? I suspect not. Anyway, I have come to the conclusion that the West is doomed unless conservatives win again and are prepared to take on the institutions that have been captured by the left. Of course, what she really means there, institutions that, they really like and all of a sudden disagree with them because the government is doing something that the rules have previously been passed that they said, hey, you can't do. And now, we don't like these institutions anymore. Anyway, that is why my forthcoming book is now reflecting on my decades serving in and latterly presiding over the British government and setting out the lessons we all need to learn. It is called The 10 Years to Save the West. And we should be under no illusion that restoring conservative common sense back into government and ripping up the woke agenda is going to be anything less than a serious struggle to free ourselves from the shackles of the global left. What? Honestly, I just don't even know how to respond to that at the moment in time. Because the left doesn't just fight at the ballot box and seek a mandate of their agenda when it is election time, their agents are all too active in public and private institutions of what we have come to know as the administrative state and the deep state. Oh, the deep state and the administrative state now merging together to become the one same thing, to become the deep administrative state. And here we go. I saw this firsthand as they sabotaged my efforts in Britain to cut taxes, to reduce the size of government, and restore democratic accountability. I'd love to know what she was on about restoring democratic accountability, because her mini budget had nothing to do with restoring democratic accountability, or even the size of the government. There was nothing in the budget which at the time suggested that she was going to reduce the size of the government. Although, bear in mind, maybe that's what she intends to do, to have that massive deficit covered by by literally, you know, pulling out a chainsaw and just going to town on the civil service. You know, you don't need 20 people in this department to run something that's vital to the UK government. Cut it down to 5. There you go. And now that office is criminally understaffed and can't really do the job it's meant to do. Small government. But here's the thing about efforts to cut taxes. To any Americans who might be watching this and thinking, why is this British guy having a go at Liz Truss? Isn't she like really good and fantastic? And I will say this now, I am on the left, but Liz Truss is lying to herself, not really telling people, well, what's going on in this particular case. So what actually happened? Well, first of all, Liz Truss came into power and decided that she was going to pass this mini budget, that the UK needed this. So out comes Kwasi Kwarteng, announced this mini budget, and literally the Dow Jones during his speech is just pile driving. Absolutely. To a point where the gilts that the UK government hold, this is, of course, the debt that sort of, people can sort of buy into, sort of get a return on, those start to nosedive massively so. Although bear in mind, a bit of a simplification of what actually happened. A lot more technical stuff happened, but again, we're trying to be sort of simple and keep this quick so that we can get back to covering more of Liz Truss's nonsense. So do apologize if I miss anything about that, but we are trying to be a quick TDLR of this. So essentially, the gilts go into absolute sort of free fall. One of the biggest investors in the UK gilts market is, of course, the UK's pensions industry. And of course, what happens? These pensions industries pensions companies start to absolutely nosedive. And according to the Bank of England, if they had not stepped in, and other insiders in the pension industry have said this as well, that they were hours away from going bankrupt. And if those companies had gone bankrupt, and bear in mind, Liz Truss now says that she wants to remove that power from the Bank of England because, remove all that wokeism. If the Bank of England hadn't had that power to stop that, then the entire UK's pension industry would have been wiped out. And yet, here you are lauding this woman. There is a reason why she is considered an absolute national joke here in the UK. And if any UK or any US conservative podcast or anyone like that wants me to come on and explain why she is in more detail, I am more than willing to come on and do that and tell you why exactly Liz Truss is known as the Great She Lettuce. And we'll tell you more about the lettuce indeed as well during that conversation. So if you'd like to do that, I'm up for that all the time. If you want to do that, let me know. But anyway, back to it. So I come with a warning to America, in particular aimed at my friends and allies in the Republican Party, the sister party to the British Conservatives. This is not a normal political battle that we need to fight. We need to channel the energy of idealism and the determination of the founding fathers. What? You're not even American, Liz. You're not even American. Why are we channeling the determination of the founding fathers? The Chartists and all those over the centuries who have fought for popular democracy. Our opponents and those advocates of the supposedly settled orthodoxy will do all they can to prevent the cozy status quo from being overturned. The Conservatives have been in power for over 13 years. Currently, they have the biggest majority they have seen for quite some time. Nothing could potentially stop them from doing all kinds of crazy nonsense. It's that They are so split as a party. Their ideas just continue to keep on failing. Their policies have been absolutely complete and absolute fail after fail after fail. And they've now reached a point where they're following this crazy free market ideology like Liz Truss, going, if we do this, everything should be golden and perfect. And then they go, well, why is it not all golden and perfect? And it's not a moment for, self introspection to look at. Maybe it's our ideas, maybe it's these policies that are wrong. No, those can't be wrong. It's the wokeism, it's the left. Any blame always has to be shifted because their ideas and they were never at fault. So there you go. And not only will the left wing elites work with their counterparts in nations like the US and the UK, but they will be, oh, this is interesting, but they will be aided and abetted by our enemies in China, Iran, Russia, all of whom would like nothing more to see than Western society undermined from within. Why is the left suddenly going to ally themselves with China, Iran, and Russia? Sure, there'll be the tankies that will certainly align themselves probably with those countries, certainly China and Russia. But I do not see the left, well, like I say, there are tankies out there, but I do not see the vast majority of the left suddenly deciding to align themselves with those three countries. So this is where we need to see conservatives elected in office at every opportunity. It is a vital year for here in the US, and we do not just need a conservative in the White House, but we need one who is able to take on the deep rot of the deep state and lead the free world. Once again, lovely fluff by Liz Truss. Nothing there about policies or what happened in reality. But again, that's Liz Truss. That's just Liz Truss. That's her usual MO now. Blame everyone except her, who was responsible for the massive crash that we almost had. And I've said this many, many, many times before. If the Bank of England had not intervened or had the power to intervene at that moment in time, things would be far, far worse. You think the Conservatives are bad now? Imagine what the political situation would be like for the Conservatives if hundreds of thousands of people, well, probably even more than that, in the UK suddenly woke up to find they didn't have a pension anymore. Or all those savings that they'd been putting in a pension wiped out, gone. What do you think the political situation in the UK would be for the Conservatives then? Because I'll tell you what, I am very skeptical of those 9 to 4 seats that two of the recent polls have come out. But I'll tell you now, if that had been the political reality, I would be believing those polls. I would be very, very much believing those polls that that's what was going to happen. So, anyway, we'll see what happens when we get our general election. Again, it's to be decided. We know it's probably going to be this year at some point. We just still don't know when. Not going to be probably certainly not going to be in November because it'll clash with the US. Can't really see us having it in October if you want to sort of avoid that. Doubt we'll have it in December as well. So those certainly 3 months we can sort of, schedule out. There's still lots of stuff about potentially a May general election being on the cards. We'll see what happens. But as always, the only person that knows is Rishi Sunak. And until, he announces the date, we don't know. So until then, of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.